Why does nobody talk about late 1940s fashion? If you're thinking, late 1940s fashion, is that interesting? I never normally hear about it. You'd be right. If you research late 1940s fashion, usually you'll just find a scant paragraph saying something like clothes rationing finished in America in 1945 and 1946, finished in the UK in 1949. Clothes gradually became more colourful and skirts a little bit fuller. And then in 1947, Christian Dior invented the new look and heralded the new era of the hourglass silhouette of the 1950s. And that is all that will be said of the late 1940s, which actually I'm going to show you does it a great disservice and means that we are missing out on some rather fabulous vintage fashion ideas. So before I get into it, I'll just show you what I'm wearing. Now, you have seen this dress before, but I'm wearing it because it is a late 1940s dress with some real characteristics of the late 40s. So it's got the double collar, little shoulder pads, but not the big wide shoulder pads of the earlier wartime era, a fun and colourful print, and it's A-line, which is the real shape of the late 40s, such a wearable shape. So there it is with with its little belt, and I'm also wearing this, show you, this early 1950s half hat, which is made of olive green satin and then has the little feather decoration on the side. So why does nobody talk about late 1940s fashion? I think it's down to two reasons. Now, one of them, I suspect, because I have done a lot of research and writing in my time, and I know what tends to happen is someone somewhere is commissioned to write about a subject, and there might be aspects of that subject they don't know that much about, and they kind of fudge over that little bit and produce a paragraph on it. Then, when anyone else writes on the same subject, they also Google the thing and they see that paragraph and they repeat it, sometimes word for word. Sometimes they kind of bish it about a bit to avoid copyright or plagiarism claims, but it pretty well says the same thing. And then it kind of becomes disseminated as truth. So that happens. And then the other thing that happens is that fashion history has a tendency to focus on the great designers. So with Christian Dior inventing the new look in 1947, that becomes the big thing. And I think alongside the dates when rationing ended, it's just becomes, oh yes, clothes became slightly more colourful, skirts fuller. Oh, now it's the 1950s. Now, this does such a disservice to what was actually happening in the late 40s. Now, I don't know about you, but I find what real women wore every day actually even more interesting than what I am interested in what wonderful designers did, but the real women with their sewing machines at home and their access to dress patterns and magazines that included dress patterns, what were they doing? Well, they were doing some very interesting things in the late 40s. So I'm going to show you my dress patterns and dress pattern magazines from this era. And while they do show some kind of elements creeping through from the rationing period of like how to make the most of fabric or fabric remnants, which I think anyway is like enduringly fascinating and so relevant for today when one, we're cash strapped, and two, we're trying to live sustainably. It does show elements of that, but also my favourite dresses from this era, which we shall get onto, showed a real interest in how easy they were to get on and off, and also how easy it was to launder them and to iron them. I mean, surely women were behind the design of these dresses. Anyway, women certainly love these dresses. The dress patterns for washing frocks, as they were often called, iron out flat frocks, looking at them, run around frocks, these were what women were actually sewing in this era. Of course there were, which we'll take a quick look at the beginning too, slightly more formal clothes, but the majority of dress patterns I'm going to look at in this video are the everyday at home dress patterns, and I hope you love them as much as I do. And here I have my Best Way Sewing Pattern magazine from 1948, which we can see by the postmark on the envelope, because Miss M. Hulbert has sent off for the two-way dress pattern that you can see on the front of the magazine, which cost 9p. And also notice on the envelope that the bust size is written next to her name. I'm not sure I want my postman reading my bust size on the envelope, but it is actually normal at this time that you do see next to the name the bust size for all to see who read the envelope. So, opening up the magazine, we've got a pattern for a colourful cardigan on one side, which is knitted from 3-ply wool, which is most commonly used for vintage knitting patterns, but is really difficult to find now. And then on the other side, a dress pattern with a flared skirt and a little optional peplum. For matron or maid, it gives fabric suggestions in velvet or wool, with or without the little shaped basque. It says it's a dress designed with youth in every line of its flare gauze skirt and demurely fitting bodice. And the page on the left here asks, have you seen and admired the new vested dresses? And gives ideas for what colours you might want to make them in. Navy blue Angora woolen would make up charmingly for this design with the vest in white, pink or pale blue, it says. Or a deep amber coloured woolen or one of the new rayons would look nice. To many of us, the charm of velvet is irresistible. And it's particularly adorable when you use to highlight a dress of dull wool, like the centre left design. Well, it says if you look nice in Quaker grey, which most people do, you might want to choose the design on the top right. And now we're on to a spread of dress patterns designed to be worn at the office. They claim to be really easy to make at home with their full straight skirts and neat little bodices. And here we can see where Miss Hulbert has cut out her coupon to send off for the pattern, with another little dress design which says it bursts into surprising pleats around the hem of the skirt. And they suggest making it in a dull chocolate brown. And yes, the bit that was missing is exactly under the heading are cover dresses. And there is the pattern for them. Such a decorative envelope, I think. It says it's the Paper Pattern Department, 21 Whitefriars Road, London, EC4. And then a few advertisements, including that one for OXO cubes on the back. And here is a copy of a late 40s dress pattern that I have. I really like the squared neckline, and also the idea just to stitch ribbon or some kind of trimming around the hem of that slightly full skirt. And now we're on to the runabout dresses, which were often designed to be made in cotton or linen to wear at home. And they come with advice like make up in a colourful gingham and match a narrow belt and buttons to the colour of the gingham. And in these illustrations of women walking their dogs or riding bicycles, we see these dresses were meant to be worn for everyday activities. Then look at those tie-round dresses. And we can see how these dresses would be easy to take off and put on, and easy to iron as well. And here are dresses with a really inventive use of frills. I love the fabric suggestions, such as to use a crisp tartan taffeta for the one on the far right. And here are patterns that would be suited to colour blockings for using up all those fabric remnants. And here we have some designs for smarter occasions and also for floral fabrics. And for teenagers, one of my favourite trends of the time, which was for pattern designs that allowed you to play with the direction of stripes or checks on the dress. And I thought looking at the cover of the magazine would give you an idea of how colourful these dresses really would be. And I also wanted to call your attention to this. It's an iron out flat pattern. And I have just such a one from Leachway, which was sent to Miss Betty Rowe, who also has her bust size written clearly on the envelope for postman to see. And it's an original pattern and quite delicate, so I will make it up at some point, but I will obviously trace it first. But it is for an iron out flat pattern, and they were really quite ingenious. They join at either the sides, to show you mine, they join at either the sides or just the shoulders. Mine joins at both the shoulders and the sides, and you button it over the shoulders and down the side, and then you can open the whole thing out flat, which was supposed to, well, would make the whole dress much easier to iron. And you can see those are my really delicate little tissue pattern pieces with the perforation markings. This was before the time that all patterns had printed markings, but let me know in the comments if you'd like to see this dress made up. You can see there actually it's joined just down that one side, and with the shoulders and the other side buttoned up. And the magazines had wonderful illustrations to their stories. In the one on the left, she's saying, imagine kissing him before she goes to the office in the morning while he stays behind doing the washing up. And she looks wonderfully glamorous, doesn't she? But the intro says, how long can she hold her own with drugs and a hypodermic syringe? And I had to show you this too because I wasn't certain about the concept of a jumper with removable sleeves. What do you think? But I do like this lumberjack style crop jacket and the colourful dresses. It really was a charming era for style. And I wanted to show you my late 1940s vintage dresses. This one in the mustard yellow corduroy, and this one in the green and white gingham check. And I hope you can see what I mean about the playing with the direction of the plaid. So it's straight across the skirt and then forms a chevron in the diagonally cut bodice, and then the pockets have a combination of being cut on the bias and across the straight with the green buttons, and the A-line skirt and the little peplum are also classic late 40s style. And this one, which has a clever application of white piping cord to form soutache across the skirt and the bodice, and a coral coloured party dress with black contrast details, so a double collar and at the sleeves and the belt, and a full skirt. Hello again. And in fact, this is a late 1940s lumberjack style jacket. Show you that, very cute and very wearable today, I think. And of course, you can't talk about the late 40s without talking about film noir. It was the classic time for film noir, and wonderful partnerships like Lauren Bacall and Humphrey Bogart, Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy. And in the fashions that both women choose to wear, we can see that especially in Lauren Bacall, liking for those A-line skirts, and of course both women wore what was considered quite masculine then, loose-fitting trousers, pants slacks, whatever you call them, and those sort of rather fluid silky blouses, so quite a kind of classic look. So between the washing frocks, the runaround dresses, the iron out flat dresses, film noir. I hope that you'll join me in seeing the late 1940s as a fascinating fashion era. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you'll like this video and consider subscribing, and I shall look forward to seeing you next week. Bye. Oh.